Hey guys, Jackdaw here. Today I'm bringing you a video that's been a long time coming, ever since Anthem's original announcement back at E3 in 2015, 2016. Back in the time when everyone in the Dragon Age and Mass Effect community looked at Anthem with severe skepticism, and rightly so, wondering what the future will be for our beloved RPG titles coming from BioWare. Ever since then, we've heard words like live service and always online juggled around. We've been left wondering, how is Anthem paving the way for our single-player experiences that we've come to know from BioWare, our beloved role-playing romancing company? Well, now that it's 2019 and the jury is in on Anthem, we're no longer looking at BioWare blindly. I've done my own as a BioWare fan review of Anthem. Be sure to check that out if you are really intrigued about my opinion of Anthem. Given the fact that Anthem has now shipped, we can dive into what this game predicts for the future of BioWare games. More towards Dragon Age 4 than any other game, because that's really where I'm centering this news towards. Of course, Mass Effect counts within this, but I'm really frontiering this at Dragon Age and the future of Dragon Age because of Anthem. And so for this sort of video, I figured I'd delve into each relevant category one by one, looking at how Anthem has leveled up since Inquisition and Andromeda's developments, and also perhaps where it has sunk since those games' productions. Regarding all of this for the future of BioWare games. Now, I'll start this one on a positive and look at a few decent developments Anthem has flourished with. The first one is the open world. Now, Anthem has a huge world streamed in. Once you've dealt with that one huge loading screen from Fort Tarsis, the entirety of Anthem's world is unlocked for you. You can practically go wherever you want across the Bastion, as they call it. The game has a beautiful landscape. It's vast, beautiful, and very fun to explore. Caves, coves, underwater, ruins, tombs, etc. There's a plethora to uncover and delve into regarding Anthem's open world. So many different area aesthetics and weather dynamics per environment, and the open world is very adaptable for the live service content. Overall, the world of Anthem is very beautiful to look at, very fun to explore, however severely lacking in content in the world. Other than killing enemies and doing world events and previous missions and contracts, there's really not much else you can do in the Anthem's open world. You can't meet NPCs, go on other quests, just there's a general lack of content in the open world other than sticking to the objective mission or goofing around in free play with world events and messing about with your friends. So while the open world is streamed in, you can explore every aspect of it, it's beautiful to look at, it's very adaptable for live service content, and of course it's aesthetic, it still runs into that void issue that BioWare have had previously with Andromeda and Inquisition, where the open world is lacking in content. Now, moving on to the next category, one of the best things about Anthem is its flight. The most time spent on creating this game has definitely been spent on its movement and flight mechanics. Hovering, flying, dashing through the world of Anthem is incredibly beautiful, incredibly fun. The physicality of it, the way it looks, it's just stunning and just so fun. You want to get on this game just to fly around the world and explore. It's just a shame that the things that you can explore are kind of lacking and lackluster. Of course, you can get beautiful vistas, you can fly over to a beautiful cliff, but even still, there's nothing to really do in the open world. Now, the flying mechanics in itself does provide growth for Dragon Age 4. Everyone is wanting better mounts. The fact that they can stream in an open world now, and they've been able to resolve flying mechanics going at a very fast speed, loading the levels up, it does pave the way for perhaps griffins for Dragon Age 4, other types of mounts, other means of traversal. What if a mage can fly around the map as opposed to a warrior and a rogue? The idea of obviously better things in the open world, better ways to get around, and the future for that for Dragon Age 4, there are plenty of things that we can think about, and I know that griffins is huge on that list. So perhaps that could be something for Dragon Age 4. Even still, the entire verticality of the open world is definitely something that is incredibly pulled off and that we can look forward to for the future. If it means just having different sorts of enemies around the map, or if it means actually having a vertical system where we can fly in a griffin. Or another idea regarding what I would like is a ship. Jumping on a ship for Dragon Age 4 and just sailing across the map. The verticality system of Anthem and the open world, I would say that the Frostbite engine is seemingly going that way. Anthem has a lot of underwater areas. Again, my biggest wish for Dragon Age 4 is to have a main ship hub that we can potentially go around Tevinter and across Northern Thedas. Could this now be possible with the developments of Anthem? The software is definitely there. Now, the next category for Anthem is the combat. Now, BioWare have really doubled down on the combat for Anthem because, of course, course, this is the main reason you're going to play the game. It's fluid, fast and crazy, and it's very much in the same vein as Mass Effect Andromeda's combat, except now you can fully fly. The reason you play Anthem is to jump into a Javelin of your choice and just get into that severe danger. Just flying around, shooting, slashing, dashing, casting, firing. Just the sheer amount of combat in this game is incredibly enjoyable. And the combat is best pulled off with each of the Javelin suits complementing each other. Each of them are diverse from each other and they offer very unique playstyles and builds. Very similar to a class system in Mass Effect and Dragon Age. You have your Colossus tank, your basic ranger, your Storm as a mage, and your rogue interceptor. Now the gunplay of Anthem is smooth, if a little bit not as weighty as it could be. However, it's the abilities that make this gameplay. The abilities, the spells, the magic. And so we have the Interceptor being a fully melee build and the Storm as kind of an artillery mage build. So does this lead the way for Dragon Age 4 regarding a class system or regarding combat? Dragon Age in my opinion has always been lacking in combat. If they doubled down on combat for Dragon Age 4 and they were inspired by Anthem, I would certainly be pleased with that because you've got a mix of melee, long range, spells, hard hitting. There's a bunch of stuff in there, however it's all gunplay. My concern is how they would fit it into a Dragon Age setting, a fantasy setting. It's easy for the future of Mass Effect to be like Anthem, but for Dragon Age it's a different kettle of fish. However, the Interceptor is a fully melee build. Could they be inspired by that for a rogue? I definitely would love to see that. This is definitely something that Anthem should lead on in BioWare, and that's bringing out a better combat system for each of their games because honestly the combat is brilliant. It's addictive, it gets you into that loop and you want to play more. Dragon Age 4 had that combat system, it would be perfect. Obviously fitting the setting towards it. You can't have guns and you can't have, you know, flying around like a crazy madman, even though that would be cool, and if we could fit that into a context of a griffin or a mage, then go for it. Now I'm working on another video about Dragon Age 4 and combat, relating it to Andromeda and Anthem, and I have an idea about that I would love to talk about in a different video, so stay tuned for that one. Anyway, steering away from the gameplay. So the gameplay obviously is the solid foundation of Anthem. It's fun, it's great, that's why you play it. Now it's going into the other iterations of Anthem that kind of steer it away from a traditional BioWare game and make it something else. What we obviously rep as an iconic BioWare game is the story and how they delve into all of that. Something that Anthem kind of severely lacks. Now first of all we'll talk about the animations because of course Mass Effect Andromeda dropped that massive shell of animations and facial animations that were really just horrendous. Now facial work has been a huge step up since then. They literally waver it right in your face. Like, yes, our animations are good now, but honestly no, they are. They're tight, they're smooth, and they're nice. They even have very heavy CGI scenes used for the story, and I really do appreciate those too. It makes the narrative more convenient, kind of like you're watching a movie and you can just take a step back. Definitely go with the future of that for Dragon Age. They really have doubled down on animations, and rightly so, because obviously in Andromeda that was a mess. So for Dragon Age, I mean, Inquisition's animations were not awful, they were actually pretty good, especially for BioWare's first game on the Frostbite engine. So I would say that, you know, with them building up from Inquisition and now Anthem, I would say that the animations for Dragon Age 4 should be pretty convenient, pretty nice. Anthem does go to show that they can now animate even heavier scenes. So for Dragon Age 4, I'm wanting to see Solas become a wolf, at least a dread wolf, transform into that. One of the limitations in Inquisition was its engine because of the previous generation consoles. We're not going to have that for Dragon Age 4, so let's step up the animation game even more so now. Bigger bosses, huge budget scenes. They did it in Anthem. Let's do it for an actual BioWare game that we want, you know? Put that money where it should be going, to the high budget BioWare games that we all want. Okay, animation's done. Now, this is probably going to be the biggest turn off for Anthem for me, and that's the narrative. So Anthem's narrative is a whopping mediocre. It's not recognizable as a BioWare game in my opinion. In some cases it feels like an Andromeda 2.0. You meet your antagonist, he hates you, you have to rival him, and that to me is very samey because we have one of the same lead writers, Kathleen Rutzerat. She was both one of the lead writers for Mass Effect and Anthem, and this does really show. That sounds kind of mean, but honestly, like, Andromeda and Anthem have very similar plots and they end in the same freaking way, and so I think we need to keep Kathleen away from Dragon Age. Anthem's story is often lacking and there's no real direction or overarching narrative at play here. There are a lot of big words that are thrown in here. When you break it down, it's really simple and it's actually just a lacking narrative. So I was kind of underwhelmed with Anthem's narrative from the very start. And even the smaller things that make narrative, of course, I talked about this in a review, but the smaller things that really build a story up, like codex entries, like characters, now they're even more lacking. Codex are spread through the main hub for Tarsus. I love the fact that you pick them up and you interact with them, but they just lack complete interest. I really don't care about reading about them. And then all of the B characters around Fort Tarsus, they're boring, lackluster, and just a drag to talk through. Although they are animated pretty well, it's It's kind of like if you could talk to all the people in Val Royeaux who are doing nothing and just sitting having a drink of mead or whatever they're drinking, or Elysian wine. It's like if you could talk to them about their day. That's what Anthem does. Or if you could talk to them about like frilly cakes. I mean, that would be an interesting conversation, but a lot of Anthem's conversation is just put in there for the sake of it, like talking to old ladies about why they don't like you, or talking to a drunken woman, or just very boring conversations that you wish didn't exist in the first place. And so for Dragon Age 4, please just don't have those B characters. Let the Dragon Age writing team be its own team. Don't let Kathleen join in that. Don't push any of the writers away. Let Patrick Weeks lead the team. Don't incorporate anyone else unless they've previously worked on the Dragon Age trilogy, but don't mesh the Mass Effect and Anthem team with Dragon Age. That's my only criticism there, because again, it goes to show Anthem and Andromeda have very similar plots, and Dragon Age 4 is going to be a grand tale by the looks of it. Let's not make it a basic, very similar vein story to Anthem and Andromeda. It really shouldn't be. It should be a completely different narrative, so let's hope it stays that way. And regarding that, one of the biggest changes to Anthem was its incorporation of first person. When you're walking around Fort Tarsis, you are actually your character in first person. You see, you talk as them. And this also occurs in major cutscenes, and it's actually really cool to witness. However, you just don't really get to see your character that much, and I really like seeing my character. So even though it's a really cool touch, it's fun for Anthem's sake. I would really much rather see my character for the future of Dragon Age. The thing about this that irks me the most is the fact that the character customization creator, there's really no need for it when you rarely see your character. So it kind of depletes the idea of creating character in the first place. But hey, it was a nice touch. I just hope it stays with Anthem and it doesn't weave its way in there. Now, one of the best things about Anthem is its levels of customization. Again, you can't really customize your player protagonist that well other than a few presets. However, your Javelin suit, now there is incredible depths of customization there. Colors, materials, vinyls, mats, different patterns, etc, etc. There are so many different types of patterns. However, it's the gameplay grind that's needed to earn the gold to then buy upgrades and then actually get new materials. That is the monotonous thing here. But for the growth of Dragon Age 4, we saw how they were delving into dyes with customization of materials there. Definitely in Anthem, they are stepping it up even more so. So for Dragon Age 4, expect even more of that plaid weave all over your new playable protagonist's body, because I really feel like they will be stepping into that for Dragon Age 4. Different dyes, different materials, having a completely unique look. They've been delving into that in Inquisition, Andromeda, and now I feel like with Anthem, they have actually stepped into a really fun thing here, and I can't wait to see the increase of that. Okay, now on to the major subjects of Anthem, and that's live service and the always online servers. So the endgame content for Anthem is quite lacking. It consists of Stronghold multiplayer missions and recycled main quests with contracts. That's how you level up from now on. That's how you get better loot. You play all of the previous missions on harder difficulties, and that's the grind. The other live service elements consist of daily challenges, new world events, and huge strongholds coming in the future. Things called cataclysms that are also coming in the future, and different dynamics to the world. Now there's also a hint at upcoming story content within the end credit scene, but regardless of all this live service content, it's all got this multiplayer emphasis. So for Dragon Age 4, I can see how Dragon Age 4's multiplayer may follow this pretty easily. Hey, here's a new world event. But for Dragon Age 4's single player, now I don't understand how they are going to be doing this unless they just literally release DLCs for single player content every month. If it's just that, that's perfect. Other than that, I don't really know how they're going to measure that in Dragon Age 4. If it's just the multiplayer, then that's easy, that's great, that's simple. However, for Dragon Age 4 single player, now that's where this is tricky. I hope they do something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where you get episodic DLC every month. That works for me. I bought the season pass to that game straight away because I was like, this is the content plan, cool, I'll jump on this straight away. However, if they incorporate some other multiplayer way in Dragon Age 4, I swear to the maker, that is just not right. Honestly, we'll just have to see. But Anthem is all multiplayer. There's no single player in this. It's all multiplayer, so there's no real way to measure or judge this. And now the always online servers, the fact that they're EA servers is the thing that ruins this, because EA servers are just crap. They always disconnect. Even in the single player aspect of Fort Tarsis, you always have to have an online connection. Always. Even if you just want to talk to your favorite NPC, you need to be connected online. You cannot play offline. Now if Dragon Age 4 is like this, then just kill me, because there is no need for our single player RPG to be like that. But hey, somehow, somewhere, some reason, Anthem entering Fort Tarsis has to be always online. Maybe it's so you can connect to your friends easier, maybe it's for some stupid reason, I don't know. Dragon Age 4 should not be like that. If it is, then honestly they have ruined the game, because getting in onto EA servers day one of Anthem's launch, even on the beta or the demos, whatever they called them, it was incredibly tricky. And the bugs, it just doesn't work. So Dragon Age 4 4 will be dead if they do that. I'm not even kidding. And we've reached the end of my list. Now, Anthem takes many strides forward regarding the combat, gameplay, and open world. That being said, there are a few bumps in the road, and a large part of me believes that is due to Anthem's genre. It's a looter shooter, a style of gameplay that BioWare have never catered towards, ever. So of course it's going to be a bit messy over here and a bit chaotic over here, and I can totally see where they've tried to be ambitious, where they've really put emphasis in the gameplay, and they've actually tried to create a story. But regarding the future of Dragon Age and Mass Effect, the actual things that we really care about, Anthem is showing aspects that BioWare is evolving, seemingly more in the gameplay than anything. But it's the story that I'm worried about. BioWare now needs to focus on their story and narrative. The best thing about Anthem and Andromeda has been its gameplay. Dragon Age 4 needs to redeem BioWare with their story. And I just suggest that they keep Andromeda's writers away and let the Dragon Age team do their thing. Keep Kathleen's hands away from Dragon Age and let Patrick Weeks and company do their thing. I'm not even kidding. Lock the Dragon Age writing team away. Keep them away from BioWare Edmonton's other studio that are working on Anthem. BioWare really need to wow us with their narrative and story once more, because Anthem and Andromeda have been fails on this. Both of them massive fails. So Dragon Age 4 really is our last hope for that. So let's hope that they can do it. But hey, Anthem is not completely a wreck. They have done really good things with the gameplay here, and I hope to see a lot of that in Dragon Age 4 and Mass Effect. They can easily do that, and the fact that they're showing here the depth and the evolution that they've delved into, it's great to see how the gameplay has improved, how the open world's better, how the customization is immense, and how they're trying new things with first person and with CGI cinematics and mole capture, finally. Oh my goodness. So there are a lot of exciting things that Anthem has done, and that really do pave the way for BioWare games in the future. Let's hope they just get it right next time, honestly, at least when it comes to a story. Anyhow, anything I missed in Anthem that may pave the way for BioWare's future titles, let me know down below. But until next one, I've been Jackdaw, and for all your things BioWare, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, you're already in the right place for all that jazz. Until the next one, I've been Jackdaw, and I should go. Whoa, 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 whoa.